there's this whole field of developmental trauma that actually impacts who we are, how we function. Well, to me, trauma is not the event. Trauma is what happens with the disruption in the body and the systems as a result of what happened, and how we either learn to cope or how we've been groomed to cope. But we are trained by multiple levels. I mean, from our earliest days, we're trained to go against our instinct and intuition in order to fit a timetable and a schedule.
It's almost like we're self-hypnotizing ourselves into into a problem orientation or into what we don't want. So normally we hear about post-traumatic stress. So what's post-traumatic growth?
Quite simply, it's where we turn what happened to us into what transforms us. So instead of it being a problem, it now becomes this sacred offering. People need to give themselves a little bit more credit. Just give themselves a chance to say, you know what, maybe there isn't. Maybe I'm actually healing. Maybe I'm doing all the right things and it just feels different.
Hey everybody, it's Chris Duncan here, and I'm so excited to be introducing you to Kimberly Davidson. We were just chatting offline before we started about how important it is to be a creator of wellness. Now, you're now one of the co-authors in our amazing book, Superconscious Wellness, and I'm thrilled. I'm actually thrilled of the whole book. I'm also thrilled of your chapter. I feel like all the authors have come together with such a great perspective, leading to this really nice book. So now I'd love to get you to give us a little bit of an introduction of who you are and why you chose to be in this amazing book.
My name is Kimberly Davidson. I met you many years ago, and I felt aligned with your work and the way you worked. And I felt that was in alignment with what I think about trauma. I don't think it means that we're a problem, or, as you've said, we're not broken. I just think that things happen and they can be repaired or replaced or remembered. And so when that's what I sort of dedicated my career towards, how people transform trauma into something that works for them. And I don't know, when I met you, you're aligned with that. You might use different words and different language, but I think our core beliefs are the same. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, the main message of the book is to be a creator of wellness, not a problem solver of illness. And so you work a lot with trauma. I'd love to hear your perspective on how that impacts someone's wellness.
Well, I think the misconception is, and again, I don't know how many words I can use that aren't going to get bleeped out by different things on YouTube or things like that. But I think a lot of people think trauma is only, let's say, kidnapping, rape, war. They don't understand that there's this whole field of developmental trauma that actually impacts who we are, how we function, how our patterns, how our nervous system, how our thoughts. And so I think these worlds are perfectly aligned, because if words that we use, and can I give you an example just for, when you think of salt and vinegar chips, like when I think about it, I can already feel like the salivary glands. And I think, okay, so what's going on? All I did was say the words and my body is responding as if I'm actually having the chips. If it will do that from using salt and vinegar chips, imagine what it does with those words that have stressful or different or more toxic meanings. So we actually create the wellness in our body chemically without even knowing what we're doing. So I think trauma plays a massive role on so many levels that we know of and we don't.
That's interesting. You seem to have a unique definition of trauma. How would you define what that is?
Well, to me, trauma is not the event. Trauma is what happens with the disruption in the body and the systems as a result of what happened, and how we either learn to cope or how we've been groomed to cope. And I realize grooming is a strong word, but we are trained by multiple levels. I mean, from our earliest days, we're trained to go against our instinct and intuition in order to fit a timetable and a schedule. So we disconnect from ourselves. So, but yeah, I think to me, that's sort of the biggest trauma inside, like how we were meant to operate. It's not how we are operating on a global scale.
And so trauma is
how we cope, not what happens. Like it's not the event that causes it, I guess I should say.
So the trauma is how we cope. And so if we've got a coping mechanism, then we attach it to words, like the salt and vinegar chips attaches it, and we have an instant association to words. And so how is this connecting into someone creating wellness?
Well, because if we understand, let's say, the words that we're using on a daily basis, if we're
Mm,
constantly giving ourselves negative feedback or setting up
right.
how we're living every day without even knowing, that will impact our wellness. Just from
Mm,
getting up in the morning and saying, oh, I'm tired. Well, the
right.
part of our brain that understands what tired is thinks that's now an instruction. And so now we go through the world with those chemicals.
Right.
So we're reinforcing the opposite side. So to me, that's
But
kind of how I tie that in.
yeah, yeah, and I get it. It's almost like we're self-hypnotizing ourselves into into a problem orientation or into what we don't want. So, you and I both talk about, creating wellness as a focus, and that's what the book's about. And so, how would someone, I mean, how would someone clear or release their trauma to create wellness? What are some advice or tips that you have for people that are going, yeah, maybe I do talk myself into a bit of illness?
And one of the main things is choosing some of the words that we use. Like I said,
Mm,
quite often people wake up in the morning and they just think, oh, I'm so tired. Then that
right.
becomes the instruction. Then that chemical goes into their body the whole day. And then
Yeah.
every time they say it, it reinforces. So maybe
Yeah.
finding a handful of trigger words that we're using that might have a negative chemical or something we don't want, and find something that is neutral or positive to give us that wellness state that we do want. That's one of the
No,
easiest and fastest ways.
it really is. It
Mhm.
really is. We're continually, communicating with ourselves, and we're either talking ourselves into what we want or into what we don't want, I guess. And so,
Yeah.
listeners out there, we've got this amazing book.
Yes.
Kimberly's got a chapter, I've got a chapter, and then there's 11 other chapters there. It's a phenomenal book. It's called Superconscious Wellness, and it's about becoming a creator of wellness using your highest mind. It's a fabulous book. There's a link underneath this video that I'd love you to click on and go get your copy of the book, because it's really going to make a big difference. I don't know about you, Kimberly, but I get the feeling that you've sought out wisdom on any area that you want to create change in, and you found experts. Is that true? Is that something that you've always looked for, is to find the right people can help you to create what you love?
Absolutely. And in finding that, I've also found that there were a few gaps that link different pieces together. And I wanted to be
Yeah.
part of that too. So,
Yeah. And so if anyone's listening, you really do need to go and find the right people. And obviously, Kimberly, you're one of the right people. So I'd love to hear about how you work with people, what it is that you do to help people in life, but also to release trauma and to create wellness.
yeah, I mean, I'm probably a little bit different than some people that work in trauma because I focus on post traumatic growth. So,
Mm,
going through, the recovery and just
mm,
understanding what has actually happened, because most people aren't taught about this container that we live in and how it works and how it was meant to function. And how once we get out of the way of what it naturally knows how to do, then we can actually step towards like conscious transformation and evolution.
mm,
So I work on all those levels, body, mind, and spirit, because if we leave any one of those layers behind, then that's not the life that we were here to live. So I
mm.
work with clients wherever they are, at whatever the stage they are, whether they're flowing, whether they're forging, wherever they are. And we just sort
You
of,
know, I love the post-traumatic growth. I've got a good definition of it. I'd love to hear yours, because normally we hear about post-traumatic stress. So what's post-traumatic growth?
quite simply, it's where we turn what happened to us into what transforms us. So instead of it
Mm,
being a problem, it now becomes this sacred offering that we can now step into and take us away from that victim consciousness. It's like, okay, so this has happened. Let's see what's in it for us. What can we do with
mm,
this? How can we be better than we've ever even thought possible before? So it
mm.
becomes a gift instead of a burden.
Yeah, I love that, and it can become the catalyst, to where it is you're gonna be. Sometimes people get stuck in comfort and they're comfortably numb, basically, and it takes this trauma to kind of kick their butt into action. Is that something you've seen? Because I've seen this with people I work with. It's like that was actually the biggest gift ever was that diagnosis or that tragedy. Is that's
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are sort of in that mentality that it takes tension to grow, but it's just like a checkerboard. Can you see the white squares without the black? And a lot of
Hmm.
people can't. So they need that impetus. And that's actually why the company's called Catalyst. exactly for that
Yeah.
reason. So you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a really good name, by the way. So tell us a little bit about your company and what you do and how people can connect with if they're going, yeah, this is something I want to get into, how they can find out more.
Yeah, either KimberlyADavidson.com or catalysttrauma.com, because people coming from different avenues may not want to research just the trauma aspect and they might want to do the conscious evolution. But those are the two main sites. And we just figure out where you are on your journey. And we sort of make you safe and we help you understand through some psychoeducation what's going on in the container and then how we move forward so they get to be who they want to be. So it's not a recipe because it's about each person getting to be who they came here to be and bringing that
Right.
remembrance and wisdom out. But there are some processes that we can do that will make that easier than people are afraid it's not.
Yeah. Wow. Uh, I'll put those links underneath in the show notes so that everyone can access
Thank you.
those links and find out more information about it. Because I know personally is you have in your life, what's you safe, what's safe for you to have, what you're allowed to have.
Yeah,
And if we haven't got tools and ways to let go of who we've been and step into it becoming, we simply just repeat the past, the same words, the
exactly.
same the same
Yeah.
thing over and over again, which is, by the way, no judgment that, sometimes that's just how someone's life path is going to go this time.
Well, it's also
So,
what their nervous system recognizes as safe because it's familiar, not because it is. It's like,
mm,
oh, I know this. I know how to survive this. I know this pattern,
mm,
which is why we will repeat relationships and scenarios over and over again and wonder why.
mm.
Because safety and familiarity quite often get mistaken in a nervous system that has trauma within it.
Very, very, very much a big yes to that. Would you expand on that a little bit more? I've got some thoughts on it, and I feel like we've got the same thoughts. Is how we continually stay stuck in patterns because they're familiar, not necessarily safe.
Yeah, I mean, if we think about if we're used to operating at a certain level, anybody outside of that, and you addressed it so correctly earlier, it would be too uncomfortable. And we've learned that discomfort usually means that something's unsafe or something is wrong. So then
Mm.
we meet somebody that's in our vibration or our frequency because they've had a familiar experience. And then we think, oh, you're my person, you're my, you know,
Yeah,
and they might be, but they're a vibrational match, not a healing match or a safe match. And at the same
yeah,
token, you could actually be the very person that it's the opposite side of the coin to help you heal. So you can heal together or continue the pattern. So there's an opportunity in both.
yeah.
But
I see it time and time again, Kimberly, people finding their way into the exact same pattern. They just
yeah,
replace dad with spouse or coworker or best friend or boss and mum with this and
go.
that, and they continually recreate the past. And it seems to be that there's an aspect of consciousness that goes, well, I know I won't die from this. And it
Bingo.
doesn't ask to thrive, doesn't ask to heal, just goes, one question, have I survived it before? Yes. Well, what's the chance of surviving it again? I will. And so it just continually repeats it. And I see it in wellness a lot, actually. Someone will have a sick family, sick parent, someone ill, and they'll feel guilty to be energetic and fit and healthy. They'll feel guilty. And
Yeah,
so what they'll do is instead of turning up to the household that's full of sickness with all this energy, they'll manifest sickness so that they can fit in.
bingo.
And that becomes their safe place.
And then the neurobiological catch with that, they don't know how to fit in or be safe if they don't run that pattern. And then the part
Correct.
of the brain that runs that is that's all it's looking for. But a lot of people don't
Mm.
understand that. So they try and make a dog into a cat and it doesn't work because there's a whole risk management if we change something.
Yeah.
Because how do you
Yeah.
survive if you're the one that doesn't fit in with your family anymore because you don't run those patterns? That's
Yeah.
traumatic for people. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And they find themselves 30, 40, 50 years down the track wondering, why do I'm doing everything that others are doing, I'm eating the right, it doesn't matter what they try, vegan, vegetarian, paleo, keto, they try
yeah,
every diet, carnivore, they go to every healing, but there's this one instruction sitting in there, you're safe if you're ill, you're
yeah.
safe if you fit in, if you're ill, and they continually find it. Gosh, I feel like we could just keep talking about this forever and ever. And as listeners, I'm sure you're going, yeah, I get this. So I highly recommend you go check out what Kimberly's up to. But we must finish because we are starting to run out of our time. We want to do a nice short podcast. So listeners, you got to go check out what Kimberly's up to. It's by the sounds of this, it's I agree with pretty much everything that you're doing, which is fantastic. So I'd love
Thank
to just leave it open for you. Any final thoughts, anything on your heart that you want to share with anyone that's tuning in to our session today?
I just think people need to give themselves a little bit more credit. And instead of just going with that automatic assumption that something is wrong with them because they're feeling something, just give
Mm,
themselves a chance to say, you know what, maybe there isn't. Maybe I'm actually healing. Maybe I'm doing all the right things and it just feels different. And different doesn't mean I'm unsafe. Maybe it's okay to change because you're not hurting anybody to live your life.
mm. Another big yes from me. It's okay to change. Yeah, I love this conversation so much. You have no idea. And so thank you so much for your good energy in this book. I'm so proud of what we're putting together.
Me
There's
too.
4 books actually. There's Superconscious Wellness, Transformation, Manifestation, and Parenting. And these 4 books with 48 authors is it's going to make a dent in the universe, and you're a part of it. So thank you so much. And listeners, thank you for tuning in. Please go get your copy of our books. We put a lot of effort into them, and I think having everyone have to write just one chapter has made it very potent. It's really good. Kimberly, you're amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
Hope
Chris.
everybody goes and finds out what you're up to and connects with your coaching. It's wonderful. So
Thank you.
listeners, big thank you. Thank you, Kimberly. Thanks, everybody. Stay focused, stay super conscious. Go get a copy of the book, and we'll talk to you very soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, Chris.